Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Social Marketing Academy. I am your host, Christopher Tompkins. Super excited about today's show because one of the topics I'm always asked about, and I'm not necessarily the biggest expert on, is the wonderful world of SEO. So we're bringing in my buddy, Michael Fleischner today, and he is from Big Fin SEO. He's going to be talking about we're going to answer some of the questions that you guys have posed via social. You've DM'd me some really great stuff for Michael. And I've shared some of them with him before the show, so I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. So we'll introduce him in just a second. If you are just a new person to our podcast, welcome. Hello, I'm over here. We are streaming this live as well as we have the RSS podcast version. So if you are a podcast fan, please make sure to subscribe and download Apple, iTunes, wherever you're at. And for our live streams, we have our live streams that are available on YouTube, Facebook, and a couple other places as well. But I say all this to say that in the descriptions of our videos, you'll be able to find links directly to where you can subscribe and learn more about our guests as well. In addition to that, I want to please ask me questions. What questions or what topics would you like to see in an upcoming show? This is pretty much like an hour of free consultation in any sort of subject area. We've already covered affiliate marketing. We've covered influencer marketing. We've covered social media marketing, of course. So we're doing SEO today. What would you like to see next? Let me know. Go to gosalesandmarketing.com. Again, that's gosalesandmarketing.com. And you'll be able to just DM me, find my social media links, ask us any question, use the contact form. I really don't mind. What I want is for you to ask any questions that you have so we can help. So go ahead there. Oh yeah, also I have an e-course that's free right now, social media marketing e-course, as well as some really great blogs that we just put up. We've done some really interesting ones for the last few weeks. I would urge you to take a look at, and they're hopefully useful for you. So I want to introduce Michael Fleischner before we bring him on. So as an entrepreneur, marketer, and author, Michael Fleischner is the founder, like I said, of Big Fin SEO. It's a search engine optimization and digital marketing agency, and Report Hopper, which helps freelancers and agencies deliver quality reporting to their clients. Michael, he's been everywhere, right? So Michael's been on the Today Show, ABC World News, Bloomberg Radio, and he's also featured in USA Today. So he's doing things. He is also the author of SEO Made Simple, which is it's now in its 7th edition. So when a book's in its 7th edition, it means like you should probably take a look at it if you're interested in the subject matter, because people are actually looking at it. And I have read the book. If you are interested in SEO, it's definitely a title that I would suggest, especially if you're starting out. But even if you need a refresher, check it out on Amazon. And he also hosts a weekly podcast too, which is called the Digital Freelancers, and that's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So what I'm going to do right now, without further ado, is I'm going to let Michael in so we can all begin our conversation. We can start answering all of those burning questions that you're going to have for him. Michael, welcome.
Hey, Christopher, how are you?
Yeah, I'm alive. I'm doing well. How about you?
About the same, but really excited to be here and so excited to be talking to you today.
So me as well. So I gave you a very warm introduction to our podcasting family.
I'm so touched. Thank you.
Yeah, I try. I'm not to touch people. But just as a kind of an introduction, I just would like you to introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers.
Absolutely. So my name is Michael Fleischner. I'm a marketing guy. That's really all I know how to do. My specialty is really SEO, search engine optimization. I've done a lot with that, reputation management, content development. But at the end of the day, we help people look good online. And we really focus on optimizing websites so they show up in search results for related search terms. And I've been part of this business since really, I'm going to embarrass myself, but let's just say 20 years. Almost when the internet began, Christopher. We've been doing it that long. So we love what we do. We work with a variety of clients, all the way up to a Fortune 500 client, to a mom and pop shop, that's selling jewelry in a strip mall. So, we help clients of all sizes. We realize everybody has different needs and different budgets. And in addition to that, I'm a co-founder of a piece of software called Report Hopper.
Mhm.
And this software is designed specifically for freelancers and agencies to report to
Mhm.
their clients.
Mhm.
It was actually created out of my own frustration and my business partner. When we started as freelancers before we had our agencies, we tried to create reports for our
Mm.
customers. And as you know, that can be difficult because you're working on
Yeah.
so many different platforms and you got to
Mhm.
copy and paste, and it's just annoying and it's very time consuming. So, fortunately now I don't really have to worry about it, not just because of the software, but we've got a project management team who kind of coordinates all that,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of work, especially when you're freelancing. So
Absolutely.
Report Hopper really just connects, Google Analytics and Google My Business and Facebook and all the platforms that we use
Mhm.
or manage for our clients into a really simple reporting solution. And that's kind of my side project in
Yeah.
addition to running the agency.
But I have to say though, I mean, just from the agency side myself, it's an absolute nightmare. I don't think anybody understands. When we, because I mean, we've struggled with reporting for ages, and one of the things that we started to do was just say, I'm not going to use an automated solution. I'm just going to pull and create and have a designer that does it and just do it, because it was either we were finding that, and this is kind of something that you'll see as you do social media marketing, you look into the analytics. Some sites are very robust and some are the exact opposite. So when
Hmm.
you give your client those results and there's 2 metrics for LinkedIn and 75 for Facebook, it's kind of like, well, where's the rest of the LinkedIn portion?
Are you hiding something?
Yeah,
They're
are you hiding
wondering.
something, right? It's like, no, no, I'm sorry. My bushel is open. My light is shining. This is all I
That's
got.
right.
Um, so you were mentioning freelancing,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like where you were starting out. Um, One of the questions that we were asked based on your background was, can anybody be a freelancer? I know this isn't like specifically related to SEO, but kind of
Mhm.
just as a nice starting point for the conversation. What
Yeah.
what what say you?
That's a fantastic question because I think I'm the example of someone who made a living out of being a freelancer.
Mhm.
And from a personality perspective at the time, I couldn't be any further from the truth. I was a corporate guy. I worked for corporate America. I worked for the sixth largest company in Canada, US based, but it was a Canadian company.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
you know, billions and billions of dollars, large corporate structure, had a marketing team, worked my way up, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And I never really even thought about freelancing until I started to have this interest in SEO.
Mhm.
And since it was so early in the industry, people were saying, can you teach me how to do that? Can you show me how to do that? I'm working on a website. Can you help me?
Mhm.
And before long, I started helping people, and I was doing it for free at first. And then, of course, a buddy of mine said, well, why don't you charge people? I said, I have no idea what to charge them. And
Yeah.
he said, well, charge them for your time, figure out what your hourly rate is, and just charge them by the hour.
Mhm.
And that's how it all started.
Yep.
So I was working full time, and I did that for many years, Christopher. So working full time, coming home, eating dinner, with the wife and kids. And then afterwards, I'm going up to the room to work. And I
Yeah.
would work for 2 or 3 hours a night.
Mhm.
And over time, as my name got out there and I got more referrals, just like the agency business, truthfully, as you
Mhm.
get more referrals and now you're not looking for the business, it's coming to you.
Mhm.
I'm like, maybe I can make some money doing, like, maybe this could be a business.
Yeah.
And I told myself that I wouldn't leave my full-time job until I was making at least as much in my freelance business as I was in my full-time job, because I was
Smart.
so conservative.
Yep.
And as you know, we know a lot of people
Mhm.
who they said, you know what, I'm going to start an agency or I'm going to be a freelancer, and they quit their full-time job.
Yeah.
Like, to me,
Yeah.
that's just
It's extremely ballsy. I mean, it's
it
extremely
is.
ballsy. Yeah.
And honestly, that's not what I would recommend for myself, right? For your
Mhm.
listeners, everybody has to decide what their risk comfort level is.
Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to just keep doing this. I'm going to double down. I'm going to take on the hours. And, there were some mornings I was waking up at 5 o'clock and working from 5 to 7 a.m. taking a shower and then going to my full-time job and then working at night. I mean,
Man.
it was grueling, but I
Yeah.
eventually got to that point and I shut the lights out at work and I never went back. So
How long, just out of curiosity, Michael, how long did it take you to get to that point from
yeah,
deciding to make it?
probably. Yeah, that's another great question. I would say probably 10 years,
10
close to
years.
10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it was 8, give or take a year,
Mhm.
but it was hard because I was so focused on kind of working for the man, right?
Mhm.
I bought into this belief that as an educated white male, it was expected of me to work for a corporation and try to,
Mhm.
get as
Yeah,
high in that corporation as I
exactly.
could,
Climb as
right?
high as you could. Mhm.
And the reality is I was unfulfilled. That's
Absolutely.
not what made me happy. What made me happy was like, as you know, working with these clients where the work that we do is
Mhm.
like really meaningful
Mhm.
as opposed to pushing paper for some corporation that they don't care, right? If you're gone the next day, they'll put somebody else in your seat.
Yeah.
So it took a long, to me, that's a long time,
Yes.
especially as I look around and you see these 20 somethings who are smart, certainly smarter than I am, but they're aggressive and they go out and in 2 or 3 years, they're doing their own thing and they're successful. That
Mhm.
certainly wasn't me.
Mhm.
It was more of this, conservative, long process.
Mhm.
But I needed, I think, to grow as a person
Yeah.
before I could really take on the responsibility of running a real business.
Yeah, it's interesting because mine was a different journey. What I did was was doing some freelancing on the side because I was at a position where I actually created a service that I'm now selling. And created the strategy. I figured out how it worked. I tested it. It made sense, and I let the company have it that I was working with. But then I was doing freelancing in the evenings, and just like you. And then I'd wake up in the morning, and I'd have to take a look at some things, and I'd fix them, and then after work or lunch hour or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like the proof and concept was there, and I kind of started saving. So I saved all the money that I was banking, so I could have 3 months that I could have to look for a client. So because I was completely unfulfilled at my position because I felt like a cog in the wheel. And
Yeah.
being a creative person and a problem solver, that is soul destroying, absolutely soul destroying. And also, I mean, as everyone that can hear the sound of my voice or see me knows that I'm no bullshit. So at the same time,
Yeah.
that really didn't work there. So I wanted to be my own person and have my own job. So what I
Mhm.
did was I figured out what my monthly bills were, and I created a package that all I had to do was sell one package, and it would cover all of my bills. So what I did was after I saved up for the 3 months that I had, I quit my job and then I started doing business development. And I'm
Amazing.
obviously I didn't all the freelance work that I had, I finished those contracts. I didn't
Yep.
continue them because I didn't want anybody to think that I was doing something shady. I'm
Mhm.
starting this brand new, and then created the company name, and I landed my first client in a week.
Amazing.
And because I had case studies, I had I had skin in the game. I could be little Mr. Nobody in my Florida room working on your social media, but guess what? I know exactly what I'm doing. So I think
Mhm.
it's like the road and I always say that if you can develop a product where you can sell one of them and cover everything, then all you have to
Mhm.
do is make that one sale. And then you can grow. And as you grow, you can see how you need to change your prices and how you need to alter things. But that worked perfectly for me. And then it's like and then as a freelancer, after I had that one bill covered, all my bills covered, and I had the extra spending money, everybody else was gravy. So everyone was 100% profit after that. So you
Mhm.
really started to feel confident, and the confidence is what drives you forward in freelancing, I think, because you were your own Stockholm syndrome. Do you know what I mean? You're
Mhm.
you're your own worst enemy. Even as like because one of the things that people ask me a lot, they're like, why would you want to leave a job where you had one boss to go to an agency and have 15 or to 20 or 60
Mhm.
bosses? And it's like, well, it's different because I'm driving the ship. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
And I also think too, it's at least for me, it's a pretty significant shift in mindset. When I worked in the corporate world, I had a boss and I was responsible to that boss.
yeah.
With clients, I feel like, yes, of course, you're responsible
Hmm.
to the client, but you're not responsible for the client. And what I mean by
Yes.
that is you're in a position of providing value to multiple people. It's
Great
not a
point.
boss client relationship.
Hmm.
Of course, you can look at it that way. But, just to circle back to something that you said, Christopher, which I'm glad you really called it out here for your listeners.
Hmm.
You really need to go through that process so that
Hmm.
you believe in yourself that you can do it.
Hmm.
And that's why it's important to go at your own pace. I mean, you give a great example where you had that one client, but you were ready for that one client. If you
Hmm.
hadn't done the additional freelancing and proof of concept and
Yeah.
actually doing it, I don't know that you would have been ready to take on that client.
I completely agree with you. And I think that that's where when people are running before they can walk in terms of feeling, because I think that a lot of people feel self-entitled to the point where it's a detriment in building their own freelance business.
Mhm.
Because if you're coming out of the gate and thinking that you're hot shit and you have nothing to back it up, I think it's you're not going to last long. You're going to be
Exactly.
looking at ZipRecruiter soon, and I think that that's kind of not the real goal. But like, let's steer this conversation a bit more over to SEO and search results, because I know that's what there's a couple questions that people have put in to ask. Um, I think the biggest thing is Google. Okay, obviously Google is the biggest search engine, and everyone's talking about organic versus paid results. And is there a way that you can control organic search results?
Yes and no.
Of course.
Right? It's part art and part science.
Hmm.
So the reality is any reputable SEO company will tell you that they can go through a process to quote unquote optimize your website. But at the end of the day, it's Google who controls your ranking. Now, no one knows what's inside the Google algorithm,
Yeah.
but the industry has a general sense of what's important to Google because Google provides us tools like Google Search Console, Google Analytics,
Hmm.
and we have third-party tools in the industry like SEMrush and Moz and these other tools
Yeah.
that help analyze websites based on best practices as it relates to search engine rankings. So even though we don't know what's truly, what makes up the algorithm, we have a pretty good idea of what's in the recipe and to
Yeah.
some extent what the weight of those different items
Hmm.
are. So for example, in our agency, we go through a 5-step process that starts with like basic SEO, and I won't go into the details here, but like basic SEO, then we do some keyword research, then we do technical SEO, and then we focus on page and content, making sure that's optimized, and then what we call off-page SEO. And the reason we go through that process is based on the current Google algorithm, we want to hit all the boxes. We
Yes.
want to make sure we're checking off everything that we know, both directly and indirectly, Google is looking for, or I should say, Google is using to put that number one website in the number one position.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's even called position zero because things like knowledge cards, like you search for a definition or something like that, you get like that panel at the
Yeah.
top. That's considered a search result. So I think the key is identifying what is in your control and what is
Mhm.
out of your control.
Right.
And when people say, can you really control search results? I say, yeah, absolutely. Because if I was starting from scratch and I needed to get ranked, I would, search the keyword I'm looking for and I'd look at the top results and see if there was something there that I could either replicate or be part of. A
Mhm.
great example, I had a, reputation management client that I was speaking to this morning, and this person is, well, I'm collaborating with an agency and their client is a prominent politician. And don't worry, they haven't been in the news recently.
Okay.
Um, but we do reputation management for this individual,
Mhm.
and the question was really what items are missing. And what I mean by that is generally when you're looking at an individual. So I'm not speaking to company name, but I'm
Mhm.
using this for illustration.
Yeah.
If you Google your name, what generally comes up? Well, your Facebook profile, your LinkedIn
Yeah.
profile, your Twitter account. So if we wanted to get someone not just a positive reputation online, but we wanted to get them to rank high. What we could do is we could leverage the existing assets that are already there and make sure that they're well optimized so they show up in search results. And there's, parallels across many different industries.
Mhm.
We do work for a number of doctors. So like ZocDoc comes to mind. So we make sure that comes up. So other sites that would list that particular business or individual, and that can be manipulated. But we use that 5-step process because
Mhm.
we know that if we go through and check all those boxes, we have the best opportunity to start showing in search results.
And one of the things I really want to focus on with what you said is something that it comes up in conversation when I'm talking to prospects when we're talking about maybe a digital marketing campaign for them, and I'll suggest that we should focus on they're looking for visibility, and I said, well, if you're looking for search engine visibility, we should really need to optimize all of your accounts that you rank highly for on social. Because obviously I can do that for social media. I can't do that for your website. I don't know how to do that,
Mhm.
but I could do that for social media, no problem. But and they think, well, what are you even talking about? And I will literally do a short video of me Googling them and scroll through the results and send it to them and say,
Mhm.
listen, these are the ones, look where you are. And you have an avatar on your picture, your title's all lowercase, you don't have any links in your profile. We need to
Mhm.
kind of just bump this up. And even if someone thinks that they have a really stellar profile, because a lot of people think they have kind of mastered the art of writing the profile, because
Yes.
LinkedIn's just a resume, right? It's just a CV. There are tools and there are ways to make them stickier and better and
Mhm.
enrich them. But no, it's
Absolutely.
funny that you mentioned that, because I mention that sometimes when my clients will say, so so you're doing Google? And I'm like, no, I'm just helping you out. I'm just doing you a solid by
Right.
like making sure that the things that you rank highly for that I'm controlling look better. Um,
Yes.
so that's a good segue to kind of saying, how does social media help with SEO?
Mhm. Yeah. And, I think this is something that has really evolved over the last, I'm actually going to say 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's evolved because as these social media sites have gained larger and larger presence in search results,
Hmm.
we can leverage the authority of those sites to build the authority for a website. So a great example of this is someone who has a really good Twitter following.
Yeah.
Well, every time we do a blog post, we can tweet that out. And when we do, that link is actually on twitter.com and it's pointing back to the website. And because it's pointing back to the website, Twitter is giving their authority to that website and saying, this site is important. So, as you know, because you've built out a lot of accounts, to the extent that your account is optimized, meaning I'm looking at 2 Twitter accounts, Michael Fleischner has 3 followers and is new to Twitter. And, Christopher has 10,000 followers and has been on Twitter for 10 years. If I post a link to your site or your Twitter account versus mine, yours is going to hold more weight
Hmm.
because Google uses social media to identify really popularity. I mean, I hate to say that because it sounds like we're back in high school,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a popularity
yeah.
contest. So, if you're getting links pointing to your website from these very authoritative social media accounts, they kind of take notice and say, maybe there's a reason why people are pointing to this website. And that will help increase the authority of the website. And just to take a step back, one of the key things in SEO is website authority. And there are a bunch of
Mhm.
different ways to measure this. Moz calls it domain authority, Hrefs calls it something else, all these kind of third-party applications.
Yeah.
And you want that to be as high as possible. So Google's going to be a 100 and everyone else is south of 100.
Yeah.
And that authority is largely based on on-site optimization, all the things we talked about earlier, as
Mhm.
well as off-page optimization, who's linking to you.
Right.
So in your industry, if you want to come out higher than the next guy, you need to match their links and do them one better.
Hmm.
And if you do, and your authority is higher when someone searches for an affordable SEO company, you're going to come up over someone else. So those are some of the items that are extremely important when we think about optimization, because it really does come down to leveraging the resources you control, and social media is something that we control. So it's extremely important. And honestly, it's been over the last 3 or 4 years, it just continues to grow in importance.
I completely agree with you. And so, but one of the things I'm going to say as a caveat is with the content, what you're saying, Michael, is that once you click that link, it gets more authority through Google. But here's the thing, folks, someone has to click the link. They got to take the bait. You have to make it look good. So there has to be a strategy in place. So just throwing up like, hey, do you need this? Click here. That's not going to work because no one's going to click that unless your audience likes to be like that. Maybe it's like more of a personal injury lawyer approach, like pointing at you and you need to do this. But I think I really think that getting a really good content strategy together will enhance that so much. That's why I really am very particular about zoning in on the correct messaging to put out on clients, or even when I'm consulting, just kind of saying, hey, you have like so many followers, put out something good, put out something. Or how about this? If you're not having that much success, increase the frequency to see if it's the timing. Maybe it's just getting lost in the shuffle. Maybe try an A/B messaging strategy. There's different ways of doing it. But all of these things will talk right to the point so you can actually get the benefits that Michael's talking about. There are fantastic SEO benefits through social media.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Christopher, is that Google has been talking for a long time about this metric called EAT, which is experience, authority, and trust. And we know based on data that's coming out, right, because there are SEO resources that follow all the patent applications and all the things that Google is doing. We know that they're looking at the before, during, and after, which is kind of scary if you think about it. So they know, let's say if you're looking at the metrics for your website, they know what you were doing before you got there, and they know where you go when you leave. And that really speaks to this idea that you're talking about, and obviously you work on with your clients, which is the engagement piece. So in order to establish, expertise, authority, and trust, well, if you trust a social account, you're going to interact with that social account. You're going to leave a comment, you're going to share, you're going to like, you're going to click on the link, you're going to do all of these things. But if you're not illustrating any of those actions, then Google's not really going to take you seriously. They're going to think you're a bot and you're just posting content all day, every day, which they could honestly care less about.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. And I think that another thing that kind of falls into this category is the bait and switch tactic on posting, kind of like taking a creative version of the truth and bringing people to your website, or bringing them to the wrong page on your website. Anything that increases your bounce rate screws over this whole EAT thing as well, because you're basically throwing water right through a pail as no bottom in it, just like throwing it out.
So true.
Yeah, because we've had some clients that we haven't had access to their Google Analytics originally because they said that they didn't have them, or they just didn't know that they had it. So we're looking at our results on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. We're like, wow, look at all this stuff. And they're like, well, we're not getting anything. And I'm like, well, we found out that their bounce rate was 90%. And I don't design your website, so I don't know what I can do to help you there. But yeah, it's very interesting because I think that there's so many different pieces to look at on all of these matters. There's different. I mean, I have to look at 4 different sites to give a client an answer sometimes in order to, because nothing is 100% infallible.
That's true. And, even now, so on the paid side, we use Data Studio, which is, a great solution from Google to basically create this live report that clients can see what's happening inside their paid account. And, having access to the data is one thing, but understanding it is something completely different. And I think that's where you come in. That's where agencies like mine come in, which is to make that actionable. Because I mean, the social media and other data inside and out, and you're able to look at that and say, oh, we need to tweak this dial up, and we need to tweak this dial clients, they look at it and they're just looking at, oh, I got X amount of likes. And they
Right.
don't go any further to really use it as a tool to diagnose where the opportunity is. And I
Yes.
think that's the value of investing with people like you to manage those campaigns, because you're not just setting up and running a campaign. You're focused on taking the knowledge from the data and just continually improving it.
Yes.
And that's how these brands really grow online. So that's extremely important. And really being educated on what the data means, I think, is a vital step for everyone.
Yeah, and I think understanding that, I think even if you're going to be hiring an SEO company like yourself, a social media digital company like myself to handle things, there are going to be things that you're still going to have to learn in order
Mhm.
to really understand the investment that you're making in either of our areas. You are going to have to be open to understanding certain metrics. What I do to kind of help people get their feet wet when I can tell that metrics are a little challenging for them is to just really focus on a couple KPIs or a couple ROI items that we can just focus on initially. Keep all the whole big old reporting engine
Mhm.
going, but then just focus on a couple things that we can really help them understand how it works. Because having an ad that is clicked on Facebook 7,000 times does not equate to 7,000 people visiting that website.
Mhm.
Maybe someone clicked and their internet connection was really slow. And when they were leaving Facebook, they got tired of waiting. Maybe your
Mhm.
website was down for a second and you didn't know because there was server maintenance. Maybe your website takes forever to load. There's like a million different things that are the problem. So
Mhm.
it's good to come into a relationship with an agency, understanding that we will lead you through everything, but
Mhm.
we can't just hand things over to you and you're going to instantly get them unless because you're coming to us for expertise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's just a point I like to throw out every once in a while because just anytime that we would send out reports, like I would say, like we used to do reports about I don't know 6 or 7 years ago that were like 20-page reports, and I would look through them and I knew exactly everything, and I was like, wow, look at all this data because I'm a total nerd, and so the clients are like, that's 20 pages, not opening, close.
Mhm.
And then it's like, well, hey, I was given some insights here and I was showing you how we can do this better. And it's like, oh, wait, let me just change my communication process and how we present
Mhm.
data to clients. Um, but, yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
And I
Uh,
think you really hit the nail on the head. It really comes down to, I always call it the elegant solution, which is how simple can we make it without losing the essence of what we're trying to
yeah,
communicate? And I know I've seen your reports, obviously. I know how fantastic those are. And they're simple but highly effective because you're really highlighting the most important things that clients need to know.
mhm,
And I feel that, what you touched on earlier is so meaningful, which is you start with the KPIs that really matter. And
mhm,
we know that because we do this for a living. We
yeah,
know what's important. And I think educating clients on that, sharing that information with them, walking hand in hand until they truly understand what it means and how they can use it to affect the business, I think is extremely important. And we see this in SEO all the time. I always
yeah,
people always want to know, okay, well, what are you doing? And we have regular reports that show not just what the work, and you do the same thing, I know, not just the work that we're doing, but
mhm,
what the results are and how that's affecting KPIs. If we wanted, Christopher, we could say, look, we're tracking 1,000 keywords for your site.
mhm,
So every week I'll send you a report that shows you the ranking of 1,000 keywords. But who's going to read that?
yeah.
Like, it's pointless. So I think, you're spot on. It's all about what information is really critical and how can you communicate that in a simple but effective way to your
Mhm.
clients.
Yeah, I think it's also having, if you are going to be asking for help, understand that it it can be a really ice cold handover and we can just handle. I mean, there's clients that we're working on right now I have not physically communicated with for 5 years, and
Wow.
we're running all of their messaging, all of their social media and everything. So it's a possibility it can happen and work really great,
Mhm.
but at the same time that's not the norm. That's it's an
Mhm.
exception to the rule. And when we have clients that we'll show them visibility metrics, this is one of the things I always say too, when a client comes and says they really want to focus on visibility, I always build the campaign front loaded with visibility that would last over time. And then I put lead generation underneath. And so because visibility can be like Chinese food and you can be hungry in half an hour. So I like to have a steak underneath the Chinese food. So when you're hungry, you got something to snack on.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the things too, because you're looking at, okay, well, wow, we got 1 million impressions. That's amazing for today. But
Mm.
what is tomorrow going to bring? How are you going to feel the next day? And that's why we really try to help educate our clients so they really know the benefits of what they're doing in their investment. Because it's like the two sides of ROI, right? Return on influence, return on investment.
Mhm.
So we want to make
Mhm.
sure that we're talking to both of those at all times. Um, Now let's go into like website stuff. This is like one of I'm weak as hell in this area. How can what are the best ways to optimize a website?
Mhm. Yeah, I think, you know, to answer that, I would say turn to technical SEO. And technical SEO is really all about website performance. And it's also about tagging.
Mhm.
And those two elements are critical in technical SEO. That's not all of technical SEO, not even close, but those are two easy things that businesses can focus on. And when I say website performance, what I'm really talking about is something as simple as how fast does your website load?
Yes.
And,
Mhm.
Google makes it as complicated as you want. They talk about first full paint. They talk about how things render. They talk about the order of rendering. You could get as sophisticated as you want. But at the end of the day, does your site load quickly? When you pull up your own website, are you frustrated waiting for that site to fully populate? And if the answer is yes, then guess what? Your site is not performing well. So it doesn't have to be a difficult assessment or test, but keep in mind that you're competing against similar websites.
Mhm.
And you can use free tools. Google offers a page insights tool, a developer
Mhm.
tool. You can plug in your URL. It'll tell you everything you need to know. There are paid tools as well, but you can determine if your site really performs from a technical perspective in a positive way. And specifically here, I'm talking about speed.
Mhm.
The second thing that people can do with their websites, which, I guess is the second most important, at least from my perspective, and again, I'm wearing the SEO hat here,
Right.
is really around tagging. Now, when you do a search on Google and you get Google search results, all of the content that you see there is being scraped from websites, all of it,
Mhm.
almost all of it. Okay,
Mhm.
if not from websites, it's come from Google Maps or
Right.
from their search query tool. So, because that's the case, what a great opportunity for you to control what potential consumers will see when they search for you or the products or services you
Mhm.
offer. So that's metadata. That's titles, that's descriptions. It's also what we call schema markup.
Mhm.
And those things allow you to control what individuals are seeing out in search results. And just like you mentioned earlier, Christopher, with, social,
Mhm.
being able to control the message so that people actually click as
Mhm.
opposed to something that is less provocative, not very interesting,
Right.
somewhat mundane, you
Mhm.
want to do a similar thing with SEO because we know that Google is not just looking at website authority, for example, they're also looking at click-through rates. So
Yep.
it becomes a self-serving prophecy
Mhm.
of, how do you reach nirvana? And it's create something that people start clicking on because the more they click on it, the higher it's going to show up in search results.
Right.
So a great thing you can do is when you search for a particular term or on a particular query, see what the number one result says.
Mhm.
How have they structured their metadata? How are they referring to the solution or the product? And don't look at the ads, right? We all know that when you do Google search, ads appear on top.
Mhm.
Then sometimes there's a map or 3-pack, we call it. There
Mhm.
may be Q&A, there may be a knowledge panel. Scroll down below all of that and look at the first organic result and see what it says, because those are all things that are in our control. We can control how quickly our website loads with the right development. We can control what our metadata says. And by focusing just on those two aspects of your website, you can really start to see pretty significant change. I mean, there are a million other things involved,
Mhm.
but those would be two things in particular that I would focus on.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing that comes up quite a bit, and it's almost I get asked two different questions, and it's kind of like, oh, I need SEO for my business, and it's kind of like, okay, well, tell me more about your business. It's like, why do you need to know? It's just SEO, and it's like, well, no, there's different types, different strokes for different folks. Um, for example, like just kind of like spitballing, if you had a local business that is just like a restaurant versus a online shop for, I don't know, ties, that's two completely different strategies, correct?
Absolutely. So with your local business, the biggest opportunity they have is the knowledge panel, which is Google My Business, which is it's the largest business directory on the planet. It's
Mm-hmm.
100% free,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to claim your profile. You have to verify it. You have to enter your business information. You have to update it every week with ongoing posts. There's work to be done there, but that's a very different strategy than an e-commerce store where potentially you're running paid ads.
Mm-hmm.
You're focusing on, let's say, image optimization. You're focusing potentially on video promotion. There are a lot of different things that go into that type of
Right.
optimization, and I always say you just have to be better than your next competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And when people hear that, their mind goes to their business, their industry, their competitive set. And that's the reality. You're not competing against everybody online. You're just competing against those who are competing for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a great distinction,
Mm-hmm.
because even as that distinction becomes less obvious, meaning maybe you're talking about, I've got a friend whose agency just focuses on manufacturing. But even within manufacturing, there are different types of manufacturers. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the nomenclature around manufacturing, but there are some who maybe produce textiles
Mm-hmm.
versus those who are creating materials like canvas and rubber and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So within those industries, it breaks down even further because maybe some have a certain type of manufacturing technique
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to others. So it's really important to work through that decision tree and get a clear understanding of who your competitors are. Because if you take more of a general approach and say, oh, I want to be ranked number one in the world for medical device, well, guess what? You don't have enough time or money to get there. Impossible. And
Yeah.
I would turn you away as a client. I
Mm-hmm.
would say, well, what type of medical device? Just like you were asking about, like, tell me more about your business. This
Yeah.
is why we do it, right?
Yeah.
It's to get at the most meaningful pieces that will help us create and craft a strategy that will work.
Right.
That's why
Yeah.
we're good at what we do,
Mm-hmm.
because we do all of the research up front and we get a lot of clarity around the goals and objectives and the market and the competitive set and all of those things in order to deliver social media posts that people are going to want to engage with. So
Yeah.
it's extremely important.
Yeah, and also like speaking to the Google My Business piece, and this is this everybody, please just claim your business. You know what? And here's okay. This is what okay. This is going to be preaching to the converted, and this is us commiserating here, right? Um, uh, how many times has a client tried to claim his business but never got the postcard?
Just for that client, it just doesn't show
It
up.
just doesn't show up. The secretary threw it away because she thought it was spam. I'm
That's
going to tell
right.
you right now, that's what happened. Didn't get past the mailroom. Didn't get
Mhm.
past the your gatekeeper. Please, a big hot tip. Hot tip. If you are going to claim your Google My Business verification card and number, and you want to verify your business, whoever is getting your mail needs to know that it's coming. Something for Google is going to be coming. Please put it on my desk when it comes through. All you got to do is that. Just hold the person that's getting the mail accountable. And guess what? If you're getting the mail, hold yourself accountable. Remember that you're looking for something for Google and it's going to come in 2 weeks. It arrives.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I've had it. This is so funny, Michael. I actually, one of our clients was developing a new property. It was an assisted living facility chain, and they were developing a new property. It was a pile of dirt. Google, they delivered it to the trailer at the pile of dirt for the verification.
Wow.
So it comes to dirt, folks. It comes to work bands. So I'm
So
telling
no
you,
excuses.
just let your people know. Now, I have a question, kind of more of a personal question. Um, with the Google My Business posts, okay, you're able to, and folks, I don't know if you understand this, but you are able to post just like your post on your Facebook page to Google My Business with a couple caveats in terms of things that you can do. But how, if you were to say, like, how often should you do a post like that? Is there a magic number?
Yeah, you really want to do one a week. And the reason you want to do one a week is they expire after, I believe, 10 days. And if you post and you do nothing after that initial post, Google will send you an email saying your post is about to expire, put up a new
Yes.
post. I don't like getting spam.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure there's always a queue of posts so that I'm not getting these emails. Now, is it
Mhm.
going to make a significant amount of difference? I can tell you for the small business that keeps that Google My Business listing up to date, which according to Google now means doing these posts because they combine just the history here. They tried to create a social network, as you know, Google Plus didn't
Ugh,
quite work out the way they had hoped.
freaking hated that.
Yeah, that was terrible. So they've integrated it into Google My Business now. And my recommendation is, and I'm sure if you haven't already talked about, all the tools you guys use on the social media side,
Mm,
there are tools you can use to schedule these posts.
mhm,
And that's often the best way to do it
mhm.
because it could get a little it could become a nuisance if you have to continually do this every week. But I generally put in a month worth of posts, 4 posts. You're sitting down, you got some time in between meetings, you crank out 4 meaningful posts that are on message, part of your ed cal, so on and so forth, and you let it ride. And I have seen really good results with that, Christopher.
Mhm,
These small little mom and pop businesses are starting
mhm,
to get a lot more traction because Google sees that they're active and
mhm,
they want recent information. They want people to have a great user experience. And if they know that, the little ice cream shop around the corner has this, fun uh, ice cream flavor that only comes out on Mondays and they're posting about it every week,
mhm.
then they love that. So yeah, I would say once a week is a pretty good schedule,
Mm,
and it doesn't take much, guys. You got to
yeah.
put in the time and the effort,
Mhm.
uh, or hire somebody to do it for you. But when you do those things, you really start to see some good results in organic search.
And another thing too is another hot tip is if you are small. And here's the thing: when you were talking about, it shows that you're being active. The thing is that if you're a small local business, you're not going to be as active as like a big, massive restaurant chain. So they have all these strategies behind them. So you have to do a little bit more heavy lifting. They don't have to do as much because they're super duper active. So another hot tip that I have for you is if you are taking photographs, dump the photos, upload the photos, just dump them into your Google My Business account. You don't need to caption them if you don't want to. If you want to, God bless you, just dump them in there. We have a couple clients that we do about 15 photos a week uploaded. And because of that, they have more views on their Google My Business than anybody else that we're dealing with.
A
And
100% of the time.
and I'm telling you, because let's think about it. How many of us have gone to a listing when we're trying to vet a new business, especially something that you're like, oh, I want to go out to dinner. I wonder what their food looks like. And then you're allowing all of the photographs of your food that looks all brown when it's taken by a shitty iPhone to be posted all over your Google My Business. You can run this. You can take beautiful
Mhm.
shots and you can have happy staff members and beautiful pictures of the food in the window, lit nicely. I'm not saying get a photographer here,
Mhm.
but everyone's a photographer. Everyone has an iPhone. They're like really good, right? So you can take really good photos. So just turn on a light in your
Yeah.
business and take a picture. But it's a really good way also if you are To show the inside, I like this as one of my for a hyper local business. If you're like a boutique, or you're like on a strip mall and there's lots of different choices, like your exterior shot is not going to be everything. It's that
Mhm.
experience that you've created once they come through that front door. So show them what it looks like in your business. Show them what everything looks like. We had a business that we worked with, was a local fish market, and we did internal shots. And because when you think fish market, you're like, because I mean, how
Mhm.
many of you been in that the floors are all soaking wet and it's like smells bad and you're kind
Yeah.
of like grossed out a little bit? This is beautiful, and everyone's really friendly and they have really fun things on the wall. It's like an experience.
Mhm.
So as soon as we posted that stuff, it was getting views through the roof, and it completely helped their rankings. So
Mhm.
another good tip: dump
Yeah.
pictures, as many as you
Yeah.
can.
Absolutely. And for that small business too, I'd give one additional tip, which is focus on reviews. We know
Yes.
that reviews make a meaningful difference,
Hmm.
and ask your best clients. You don't have to ask everybody, if you're, because the objection that most people have is, what if someone leaves a bad review? My answer is, then fix your business.
I
It's
love that.
it's not an SEO problem, it's a business problem. And it's funny, you look at restaurants that have empty parking lots, and like, I could solve that problem in literally 3 seconds. All I have to do is go to Yelp and read the reviews, and I know exactly what needs to get fixed. But a lot of business owners don't want to look at the ugly truth and use it to learn and improve. They would rather just, not look.
Mhm.
And especially for that small business, from an SEO perspective, the things that we're talking about here are extremely important. And what I like too, Christopher, is that with Google My Business, you can upload video.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
because I know you do this throughout your work, but
Mhm.
that whole idea of capturing the brand experience
Mhm.
is often best told through video.
Mhm.
Even if it is a shot of someone literally walking through the front door and shaking hands with
Mhm.
someone. I don't even know if you can do that anymore, but walking in and saying hello
Yeah.
and engaging with the products or services. And by sharing that information online on the largest search engine in the world, is a great place to do it.
Yeah. And one thing that kept on coming up throughout our conversation is the importance of looking at your competitors. This is
Mhm.
something that it's I try to instill the importance of this right off the bat when we onboard a new client. We'll do a full competitive analysis, and it's interesting to me how many people or how many companies can't name five direct competitors off the top of their head.
Mhm.
And it's kind of, I don't know if it's like, it's more rhetorical, I guess, but it's I you have to know who your direct competitors are. And one of the things is that the next thing I'll hear out of the mouth would be, well, we're different. And it's like, you're a snowflake, right? There's lots of snowflake in the same snowstorm. So you're in the
Yes.
snowstorm. Okay.
Mhm.
So you're
Mhm.
one unique snowflake, and this one over here, it came from the same industry, and this is unique as well.
Mhm.
So, but just being able to understand that, you can learn so much about how, I mean, that's where we look pretty quickly. I mean, if we're doing oh God, even if we're doing a TikTok account,
Yeah.
just looking at the direct competitors and how they're proceeding, you can see, wow, that post got 800. Okay, let's take that down and let's kind of find a version of how we can do that. And then
Mhm.
and it's like you can come up with
So smart.
really great ideas.
Mhm.
But it's so interesting that a lot of people on the website side miss that as well. Uh, because one of the things I was going to ask you as well is, and then people understanding their business and how their business works and how people consume them online.
Mhm.
How how do you advise or help people optimize, or advise them to optimize for mobile if their audience is like 90% plus mobile and their website is full big titles? So you're
Mhm.
like, you get on the
Mhm.
phone and it's like the it's like yikes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I mean, mobile is it. We know that more than 70% of all queries are on mobile.
Yep.
And it's not a question of how many people are doing mobile versus not mobile anymore. And of course, you can go into Google Analytics, it'll tell you the exact numbers, but I can guarantee you, if you haven't looked at it and you are really in almost any industry, if you go and look, it's probably 70-30. or, plus or minus. But
Mhm.
so to that end, we really need to make sure from an optimization standpoint that we are focusing on what's called mobile first,
Right.
which means that Google is indexing the mobile version of your website first. And this is not some, esoteric concept. That's literally how it works. Mobile
Mhm.
first was implemented probably 2, maybe even 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So they've been doing it longer than we want to admit. But that's also why you see a lot of the web development platforms, whether it's, Wix or WordPress or GoDaddy site or whatever,
Yeah.
Square, they're mobile responsive now. So what they've done is they've created a development environment that allows the website to really reconstitute itself based on the viewer.
Mhm.
And that could be an iPad, it could be an iPhone, it could be an Android, it could be a desktop, it could be any of those things. But
Mhm.
we need to keep that in mind. And, the biggest criticism I have when we go into optimized websites is often people have so much content
Whew.
on their primary pages. Now, when it comes to blogging and it comes to content development, actually longer is better. That's
Yes.
still true. But when it comes to your homepage and your service page and your about page, we see these long, arduous pages that no one's ever going to get through. And that works against you
Yeah.
from an SEO perspective. And by the way, on mobile, after someone swipes once or twice, they're done. They're leaving. They're
Mhm.
never coming back.
Mhm.
And even if you're using one of these platforms that is flexible, you still have to be mindful of the user experience,
Yes.
because user experience is a large part of SEO today. And it wasn't 2, 3 years ago, but
Mm-mm.
today it really is.
It really is, and I'm usually, like, for example, if we're ever when we start working with a client, what we do is we have an Android, an iPhone, and a small iPad, a large iPad, a desktop, and a laptop, and we view
Mhm.
the website on all of them side by side. And then we see, okay, well, your audience, the audience for the target audience is 55 to a 75-year-old female, education level this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying 55 to 75. And it's kind of like, well, with my 41-year-old eyes, I can't barely read this on this phone. So I'm thinking that we
There's a
might want to
problem.
adjust. Yeah, there's a problem. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting because they're like, well, I don't want that big typeface. And it's like, well, do you want them to look at it? Maybe you should do a video instead. Maybe you could do something different. And
Mhm.
it's really shocking again to see how many people don't look at their website on multiple platforms, because there some platforms. I remember one. I think it was for an eye doctor, funnily enough, and he had so much content on his website. You pulled it up
Mhm.
on mobile, it was basically the website shrunk. So you had so you
Teeny tiny.
so you get, like, literally to navigate, you had to use your pinky, because you would, like, if you did a finger mash, you go to like 14 different pages. And it's
Wow.
like, oh my God, how much business are you losing? Like, it's there, that's a big, big mobile market. So a big
Mhm.
hot tip to anybody listening and watching is to take a look at your website on your phone. Make sure that you take a look at it and see if your target audience is going to like it or be excited by it. Um, because I mean, even like concert venues or Ticketmaster, for years, it was they never had anything mobile responsive,
Mhm.
and that's a
Yeah,
big
it's so isn't that
killer.
interesting how some of the largest, biggest, best websites, I mean, Disney's another example. Disney's web or mobile experience was horrendous up until
Mhm.
maybe a couple years ago.
Yep.
And it's only because Google has been forcing these updates,
Mhm.
because they have all the data. They know that people's search behaviors have evolved and changed, and everyone's using some type of mobile device. And I say everyone because almost everyone is using some type of portable device.
And I
And
think also, just throwing it in there,
Mhm.
you're right. And everyone needs to understand this. It's kind of like, well, our market's over 65. Then they're looking at the newspaper on their iPad. They might have a jitterbug or a cricket phone or
Mhm.
whatever, but they still have an iPad or some pad, a Fire or something that someone got them for
Yes,
Christmas that they're using. Like
that's right.
I get a little frustrated sometimes when I'm like, no, they have it. You got to make sure that it looks good on that. It's not like, well, all these people use is desktop computers. I was just like, what? I mean, I just
Yeah,
can't see
yeah.
it.
Well, it just reinforces, Christopher, what we already know, which
Yeah.
is you have to start these engagements with an understanding, a true understanding of your audience. And
Yeah.
if you're not willing to put in the time, then you shouldn't be selling what you're selling, because at the end of the day, the client is the hero. You're only there as the guide.
Hmm.
And in order to make them successful, you need to give them a plan. And you can't do that unless you really know what their problem is and how to solve it.
Yeah.
And I think for some clients it can be frustrating. Well, what do you mean you can't just SEO optimize my site? I have to fill out this questionnaire, and people get annoyed with us. And it's
Hmm.
like, well, do you want us to do it right? And do you want us to focus on the 20% that'll give you the 80% result? Or do you want us just to get started and do what you think is going to do it? And part of that is just education and sharing with clients what has worked with similar clients. And going back to what you said earlier, really showing them from a competitor standpoint what seems to be working in the market.
Right.
And there's a great site for people who are interested in SEO. It's called SimilarWeb, similarweb.com. And there's free and paid, but if you want to punch in a competitor, you can see exactly what their organic traffic is, where they get additional traffic from. Are they running paid ads? People who visit their site, what are other sites they have
Mhm.
visited before or after? And there are tools like this in almost every industry. There are others. SpyFu's another one that comes to mind. You can use the Google AdWords tool itself. But the whole point is that the more that we have a deeper, more comprehensive understanding of who your competitors are, as well as your best clients, the better
Yes.
we can help you as an agency, whether you're doing social or SEO or any type of digital marketing.
Mhm.
That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that too, because one of the things that we're always looking at is who's your best current client and who is
Mhm.
your ideal client, and then we look at them side by side and say like, why is this the ideal client then? This one is great, but why
Mhm.
are we looking at this one? And then asking the question, why is this ideal? This person seems perfect. They're super
Mhm.
reliable. They're spending money. They're coming back. They're referring business to you. But why is this the golden goose? Like it's
Mhm.
it's always interesting to understand the sociology or the reasons behind it, because sometimes that actually can cover a whole other campaign that you could help them with that may be separate from the current client campaign, so to speak, just the different avatars. But
Absolutely.
well, okay, Michael, we're gonna wrap it up. Is there anything else? I mean, anything that you want to plug that's coming up?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, we are Big Fin SEO, bigfinseo.com. If you guys have any interest in SEO, definitely check us out. We also have a free SEO audit available on the site. So just go to Big Fin SEO. You can check out the audit. Also, I mentioned Report Hopper for reporting. You can still get access to free reporting. We have a free option. That's a full service option. So you can check it out for free at reporthopper.com. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, feel free to tweet me, I guess, at mfleischner, MFLEISCHNER. And if you'd like to learn more about SEO, check out my book, SEO Made Simple, on Amazon.com. And finally, you guys will hear about this because Christopher is going to be a guest. But I am a host of the Digital Freelancers podcast, available on Apple and Spotify. And we talk about digital marketing issues and opportunities. And of course, we'll broadcast to everybody when Christopher will be there. But I'm looking forward to having you on the show.
Yeah, excellent. I can't wait. And also, guys, like right off the top of what he said, a free SEO audit for your website. I think we should probably take a look at that. Yeah. Huh? If you are interested at all, dip your feet in, people. Get wet. Just understand like the first steps, the basics,
That's
kind
right.
of where you are. And SEO is such a great topic. I think, Michael, you've been super helpful. You answered all of our audience's questions and my own, because I'm a novice when it comes to what you do. So thank you so much, folks. If you have any questions for any future guest, please go to gosalesandmarketing.com. You can go to the social links on the top right-hand corner. Just click around. There's gonna be something that's gonna be interesting. Shoot me a message, shoot me a question, DM me. I don't care. If you have a topic that you want me to cover in the past, I mean, we've obviously covered SEO and freelancing with Michael. We've done affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, social media marketing. Like I know about that. and lots more. So if you have a topic or if you have questions, please just shoot them over to me. Also, while you're there, we have the e-course that pops up. Join it; it's great. And also take a look at our blog. And until next time, folks, I will see you on the Social Marketing Academy. Take care, folks.